Okay, so we're going to let sysprep run and do its thing on the other machine. And in the meantime, we're going to set up the WinPE image itself, the ISO that we would then burn to a disk and use to boot the machine that we were going to be imaging. Now, just to recap real quickly, we've created an answer file with customizations for the image that we want. We have prepared the reference computer by running sysprep on it, so it is ready to be copied over as an image that would appear as if it had been just installed right out of the box. And so now we're going to do step 3, which is create the disk that we are going to boot that reference machine from to then image it, to then create the full image. So to do that, we're going to use the AIK toolkit again, so all programs, Windows AIK, and then we're going to run the deployment tools command prompt. Now we need to run this as administrator, so we need to right click on it and select run as administrator. That's in just about any program you use in Windows 7. If there's a reason you need to run it as administrator, if you're told you need to do that, right click on it and then select run as administrator. It'll come up with a prompt saying, are you sure? Say yes. And then here we go. We have the deployment tools command prompt running as administrator right there. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to run the copy PE command. What this does is it copies the PE files that we need to create the image, the ISO, excuse me. It copies it into, well, whatever directory we tell it to. So I'm going to tell it to copy it into a WinPE x86 directory. Now notice we have copy PE and then we have x86. This has to come in between copy PE and where it's going to. This tells Windows that it's only a 32-bit system that we're creating, not a 64-bit. It can do either, but we're doing 32-bit because this is what our installs are set as. They are 32-bit. So hit enter, let it run its thing, and then in a few seconds it'll be done. It'll have copied all the correct files to the WinPE x86 directory that I told it to. Now if we take a look at where it copied the files to, here's the folder that we created. You'll see it has a couple of files in it. In the ISO folder, this is actually the image that we are creating. This is the ISO. Notice that it has a sources folder, just like the Windows 7 disk that we had that contains nothing yet. We need to put the Windows image, the WIM file, in here. In this case, we're going to put in the Windows PE WIM file. So to do that, we have to run another copy command, but not this time, not copy WinPE, but just copy. So, okay, so what we are copying then is going to be the WinPE WIM file. Let me get in here, WinPE.WIM file. And if you look in the folder that we created, there is the WinPE WIM file. We don't want to just move it though. We need to leave it here. So we're going to copy it to the ISO folder. And so as we saw, the ISO folder is set in, let me pause here while I type out my mess here. I'll be right back. Okay, there we go. So where I am copying it to is the ISO sources folder. Again, this is the ISO folder that will become the disk that you're going to use. This is the sources folder, and that's where the WIM file gets placed. So enter and let it copy. There we go. Now notice it's still here. It's still in the original folder that we created, as well as now if we go to the ISO and sources, we'll see we have the WinPE WIM file, which is good. That's what we want. Now the next thing we need to copy over is the ImageX program file itself. This is actually going to be easier just to go and browse for it. So the ImageX file is part of the WAIK toolkit. So if we open up our C drive, go to Program Files, go down to the Windows AIK, it's going to be in here, in Tools, and remember we have a difference. It can be 64 or 86 or 32, x86. We have x86. So open up x86, ImageX. This is the application that we need. We need to copy this. So right click and select copy. And then where we want to copy it is just into the ISO folder itself. We want the program to be available once we boot up the reference machine, because this is the program that will do the imaging. So we need this on the disk that we're going to boot from in the ISO folder. So there, we have copied ImageX, so that is done. And we only have one thing left to do, and this is a very long, complicated command. I'm going to pause when I type it, and then I'm going to point some things out after I finish typing it before I let it run. Okay, so here, this is the last command we're going to need that's going to create our image. OSCDIMG. It has a couple of switches /N and /B. Now, make sure that when you're typing this in, you do not put a space here. Okay, this is denoting the boot file, which is the etfs boot.com file. If you put a space there, it won't recognize it and you'll get an error. So this is the boot, where the boot is located, boot file is located. This is where the stuff that we've put in to create the image, so all that stuff we're putting in the ISO folder, all this stuff, this is what's going to get turned into the image, the bootable WinPE disk. And this is going to be the name of the disk that it's going to create. Okay, so type all of this in exactly as you see it, and then hit enter, and it will take a few minutes and it'll create the WinPE ISO for you. Okay, and so as you can see, it finished writing. If we look back in our WinPE folder, we have a disk image file, a WinPE x86 disk image file. This is, sorry, my mouse is freaking out on me. This, yeah, my mouse is still freaking out on me. This is the image file. This you would burn to a CD, and to do that, you would simply put a CD into your drive, right-click on it, and then hit Burn Disk Image, and it will burn this to a CD. You could use this CD on the reference machine. You boot the reference machine up with this CD and with the answer file on a USB drive. And this will then allow us to create a full image that we can then deploy. Now, this is inside our virtual machine. And so getting this out of the virtual machine would be kind of a pain. Luckily, in the ISOs folder that we have on the machines on the lab, we have a WinPE image. So you can use that for the final part of your midterm, and I'll show you how to do that. So we've done everything we need to do up to creating WinPE. Now let's boot a machine using the WinPE disk. To do that, we're going to use, this is the machine that we ran sysprep on. So this is all ready to go. This is ready to image. So we want to boot this up using the WinPE disk. So again, we'll go to VM, we'll go to settings, and we need to make sure that there is a CD. All right, here we go. There's the image and the CD drive. So we want this time to be the WinPE CD. So let's go down to it, WinPE with ImageX. Put it in there. Okay, now to boot this machine from the ISO, you need to set the virtual machine BIOS to boot from CD. So when I start up this machine, I'm going to click in it and I'm going to start hitting F2 rather quickly, because F2 is the key to get you into the CMOS where you can start configuring your computer. So I power on the virtual machine, I click inside here, and then I start hitting F2. If I'm fast enough, the Phoenix BIOS comes up, and this is where I can configure what the machine will boot from. Using the arrow keys, because this is not a graphic interface. This is an old DOS interface, so there's no mouse in this interface. Using the arrow keys, you work your way over to the boot setup. And take the CD drive and we want the CD drive to be up at the top. We want it to be the first thing that it boots from. So use the plus key to bring the CD-ROM drive up and up again till it's the first in the list for the boot disk. So now it will boot off of the ISO file that you have put into the virtual CD drive. So hit F10 to save and exit. It'll ask if you're sure. And you say yes. And it will boot up the machine from a CD. It's going to ask you, hit any key to boot from CD. So you want to hit a key when it asks you that. And it's going to start in Windows PE. And here you see the Windows PE environment. It's pretty sparse. It's pretty. There's not much there. This is where we're gonna run our imaging. So now, just to be clear, what's happened is that we've created the answer file. We've put that on a USB drive. We have run sysprep on this machine because this is the reference machine. This is what we're going to use to create the image. We have created a Windows PE disk, a Windows PE CD that we've booted this reference machine on. And now we are going to run ImageX, which will then take this computer, the reference computer that we've run sysprep on, and it's going to basically create a full image, a complete image of the system that you can then deploy to other machines. Okay? So now the last thing that we need to do at this point is run one final complex command line command. So give me a second to type it in, and then I will explain what we're doing. Okay, and here it is. So the first thing I do is I move myself to the D drive. The D drive is the CD. The D drive is the WinPE disk where we have ImageX installed. Remember, we copied that over just a minute ago. So in here, we're running ImageX, which is the imaging command. We're setting it to capture. So in other words, it's going to capture an image for us. Which disk is it going to capture? It's going to capture the C drive. So basically, it's going to capture the computer. That's what we're doing. It's going to save it. My mouse keeps freaking out on me. It's going to save it in the myimage.wim file. It's going to call it my Windows 7 install, and then it's going to compress the drive, right? So the drive might be 500 gigabytes, but there might not be 500 gigabytes worth of data. And then the data that's in there can also be compressed even further. So it's going to make it as small as it can. Compress fast will compress it quicker. There are other options that allow you to compress it better, but it'll take a lot longer. And then I'm using the verify switch to then check that the image that is created is actually a good working image that we can then deploy to other machines. And that is it. Those are all the steps that you need to image a machine using Windows PE, WinPE, and ImageX, and then the answer file. Now the answer file will be used when I run this to make any changes to the image that I'm creating that we want. And that's it. So everything that you need to know for your midterm has been covered in these two screencasts. So feel free to run back, hit pause, go slowly, watch them a few more times to figure out what I did to make sure that you can do the same thing when you guys are running through your midterm. And if you have any questions, come see me in lab. All right, I hope this was helpful.